everyone goes to MoneyBall each week. They're KPI'd on it in terms of you've got to take responsibility for your own development. I think that each week when you have your one-on-one sit down, there's a little sheet that'll come out, and really that helps our sales leadership focus in on the areas that are going to support that individual to really grow. The other piece of it that I think's really helped us is, and I'm not sure if we get into this on the next slide, but it's been how we've been able to match up the type of profile someone is to a customer, right? Or you might have someone that's failing in one group because they're not working for the right person because they're never going to get along. And this has really brought that to the fore in terms of in the first 90 days when we're looking at somebody, we can make those decisions and make sure that we've set people up for success.
Great point. If you remember, we take the personas, right? We take these different selling personalities, and when we do regression against your actual sales performance, this is the data. Can you share what you've been able to do with this data?
This is really what blew my mind, right? Like I thought that we needed to be successful, these kind of boiler room / Glenn Ross, whatever that movie was, like with the steak knives. I thought we should be hiring like that profile, right? And that was what was going to make us successful. What I found by going through and like really loading in all of our data on top of each of my people is that my best producers are the people that I really kind of hate. And I don't enjoy spending as much time with them because we're different personalities, but they're really good with our customers, and we've been able to profile customers and the individuals, and it's had a huge impact on revenue. And at the end of the day, really that's what the focus is for us, right? Have a sales force that creates revenue, but is also feeling like we're investing them from a training and development point of view.
Sure. To add some clarity to that, the tactician, the persona that's generating the most profit for James is a very process-oriented, very quantitative-oriented person, kind of the exact opposite of the person that James Donahue was hiring.
Yeah, right? And that would explain why my results weren't as strong as they could have been.
So let's dive in a little bit more and so we talked about this kind of the strengths and weaknesses of salespeople, but let's talk about how we dove in and found out what actual sales abilities were driving sales, and then how we've been able to kind of transform the organization this way.
So we were talking about the strengths and weaknesses, right, in terms of an individual. And I think one of the really good things that we found was that we then go through and focus on engagement with different surveys that we're doing consistently through the tool, and we can gauge what our salespeople think is important in making them successful. But then we can also come back and look at what the skill proficiency is. So for example, our sales team know that it's really important for them to quickly qualify leads and make sure that they can drive the sale because it's very quick and kind of transactional in terms of what we're doing on a daily basis. But the skill level of that in my organization is low, right? So when I'm sitting there and I'm looking at how do I immediately kind of improve my performance, the tool will send out saying, hey, you should probably focus on this area. It's going to help you grow. And I've been able to get people like little vignettes on demand, and they're able to go through and focus on things that really will drive their sales performance that next week or month or whatever the case may be. And it really has helped them kind of look at their performance and where they need to grow. But at the same time, I know that I need to push that because that's where I'm getting the biggest impact on my return on investment from them and the gross profit, right? So it's been really, really
helpful.
helpful.
And I remember, so we regressed against all 33 sales abilities, and I remember quick qualification is obviously that skill is driving the most revenue within your firm.
Right.
Do you remember what was last? The skill that
it was probably something that I thought was awesome.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. Okay, so I thought we were really consultative and fantastic, but apparently we just need to qualify quicker.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. Critical thinking has no impact on sales performance whatsoever.
In terms of our people. So I think that it was a really good gut check in terms of driving that cultural aspect that I'll go back to, because you change your language and you really focus on the areas. And it supported us in terms of making that change and being more effective salespeople, but also having a commitment to our staff that if you're missing a skill, there's somewhere for you to go and get that. And then when you have your one-on-one weekly with your manager, there's the reinforcement part from them and the support on the sales call, and you can really kind of plan how you're building the development from that aspect.
Great. I thought I would share some of the data, some of the analysis, and how it differentiates, or it's different than in the Workway example. What's interesting about the analysis of the CareerBuilder sales force is we're exactly the opposite of James, right? We have a different solution set. We're similar industries, but not. And if you look at it, the top performers within our organization possess different strengths and weaknesses than the top performers within James' organization. And that's what was pretty eye-opening to us, is that we now know, we definitively know what strengths, what type of salesperson performs the best within our organization. And at an aggregate level, that data is powerful. But really what's really powerful is when you go down to the individual sales manager level and you start figuring out preferences between what type of salesperson that each manager likes to lead and is getting the best performance. That data can change across the board. And then our skills, if you could imagine, the CareerBuilder skills that are driving performance are different as well. The number one skill driving sales and quota achievement within CareerBuilder is the ability to generate trust. Our reps think it's very important. They think they're kind of good at it or moderately good at it. But ultimately, for each point of confidence or each interval of confidence that I can increase, it generates $98,000 in revenue per sale or per salesperson. I think an interesting one too, our second most important skill that we as an organization now think about this, our entire training and development effort has shifted to really focus on the skills development around these areas. So we know what skills are driving sales, we know where there's a skills gap, and that's what we attack, and that's how we're becoming more efficient, and that's how we're using data to do it. But if you look at articulating value propositions, they thought it was kind of important. And they admitted that they're not really that good at it. But the people who are good at it, boy, they are selling. They are selling a lot more. And the people who aren't good at it aren't selling as much. And what was interesting, one of the things that critical thinking was one of the skills that James should just stop worrying about because it has no impact on sales. For us, it was actually interesting. It was perceived as very important, and our team thought they were very good at it. And it was the skill being able to make an effective presentation. So our sales reps thought that it was, very important. They thought they were great at it. But in reality, people who weren't great at it were selling a lot of deals and generating a lot of revenue. People who thought they were great at it, they're not selling. No statistical correlation between that skill and sales performance. So immediately, we just cut that out. We're not even role-playing or rehearsing how to give an effective presentation. Because if you think about it, it's the value proposition that actually matters, not the mechanism or the way that you deliver the value proposition. The presentation means nothing. It's the value proposition that's important. So we're focusing our development efforts around being able to articulate, finding a value proposition, tying it to the customer's needs, and being able to describe that, because that's driving revenue in our organization. And again, as we talked about, we have this data on all 33 sales abilities. We have the data scientists at Harvard do this regression. They compare all of our KPIs to all the data that we found in this assessment, and it comes back and it tells us in order, these are the skills, these are the development opportunities. Take this data, take this wisdom, and become a better leader. Use it in an objective way to drive sales forward. And the outcome's been pretty overwhelming, right? So in less than 10 months, we're already trending at about a 40% decrease in turnover. Some of the biggest areas of turnover that we've noticed are in our entry-level type positions, right? We hire a significant amount of people right out of school. I mean, we have to hire geologists, right? We have to hire psychologists, right? I mean, all of us do, right? Because that's the type of talent that's being developed at the post-secondary level. So we've been able to take that talent. We've been able to take people even without sales skills ability, and we've been able to quickly identify kind of strengths and weaknesses. We've been able to quickly provide standardized coaching to them, strength-based coaching, so that we can kind of get them ramped up faster. And we're seeing a big impact on our turnover, ultimately because they're ramping up faster and they're getting it a lot quicker because we've standardized all this. And we've started using statistics and statistical models to be able to kind of guide our decision making. Have you seen any type of
No, I think it's the same thing for us in terms of looking at playing to people's strengths and setting someone that comes in a short period of time up for success. I mean, the biggest thing we always talk about is making sure that they can kind of hit the KPIs early, get some quick wins on the board, build their confidence, and then it's like a rolling ball in terms of performance. I think that we had some significant turnover problems, and I don't think our turnover was about the people that we were hiring. I think it was about when we brought them in, we didn't set them up for success. And if I look at engagement surveys, if I look at employee satisfaction and those types of things, definitely we've seen movement in those scores where people feel as though they're more valued, they're set up for success. And I think the other piece that we really saw improve was the quality of management from our sales leaders in dealing with the people on their team, and really, like I said, driving that cultural concept and conversation about coaching and really wanting to be there to set people up.
So by kind of enabling coaching, you've built stronger relationships between the sales manager and the sales rep.
I think that's definite something we've done, but I think the other thing that's really impacted our business is we've been able to look at our book of business and put the right people on the right accounts based upon the profile that they have, and instead of when we talk about our business now, we don't talk about people's weaknesses, we talk about their strengths and how we can make them more successful at what they're good at rather than focusing on what they're not so good at. And you can put really good teams together that can, break accounts and also, once they're inside, really make sure that they're able to mushroom and build up the business in that account.
Now, have you changed your onboarding process? Like in the beginning, like that new hire coming in, I
think that's the next stage for us.
Okay.
As we go into next year and we look at the outcomes of where we're at, I think we'll be able to look back and definitely say, okay, this is what we want to do. But I think the other thing that it makes us think about before we hire is the profile of the person that we're hiring. So I think that
the right people.
We had a feeling that we had the right people, but obviously we weren't hiring the right people because we were playing to how we felt rather than what would be successful when they came on board.
So you need to find more people that aren't like you, right?
Yeah, I know.
Tough times,
It's going to be awesome.
So we have a couple minutes left. I thought I would leave you hopefully with some takeaways. So I think there's a lot of value in becoming a sales data scientist. I think it's not as hard as you might think. Obviously the benefit of using statistics to make decisions, to make yourself a better leader, will immediately allow you to know what to keep doing, right? Like I'm sure you're doing things right within your organization, but you need to find out what those things are. Because there's probably some things, what we found out, there were some things that we needed to stop doing, right? Because they weren't having any measurable impact in an objective way on revenue growth. And we had to grow quick, and we had to keep people a lot better than we were doing, and we had to transform the way that we were selling. And so it was really efficient for us to find out what we needed to stop doing immediately. And then figure out what we needed to start doing, right? We were not doing any development around articulating value propositions. And now that's become the crutch of our onboarding process, right? Like it becomes all about working backwards from defining your value proposition to a customer and then being able to figure out how to do that. It has changed our onboarding process. And then keep in mind that data and statistics for us, it's dynamic and it's ongoing, right? So there's going to be, as salespeople continue to sell or not sell, as they continue to sell certain products and not certain products, their abilities and their traits, that dynamic is always going to be changing. And so you almost need to kind of subscribe to statistics and look for the trends in statistics, because we've learned over the course of past year and a half that by looking at statistics, we've been able to modify on the fly and be able to change our sales strategy accordingly based on trends that we see in the data. And so kind of ways to get started right away are obviously around figuring out, get skills data, figure out a process, figure out a way to collect sales skills data, and then you really got to combine sales skills data to your KPIs, right? So whatever you're measuring, whatever KPIs you're measuring, you need to really collect new data sets on your sales skills of your individuals. You combine that with your KPIs, that'll start telling you what sales skills are driving performance within your organization, and that'll enlighten you and help you decide on what you should keep doing, stop doing, and continue doing. And then obviously, when you figure out what sales skills are driving performance within your organization, it'll allow